according to the provision that is in your country. So coming back to how SENDCO from a UK-based school or even England-based school will do it, they following the local authority offer for these children with special needs, they can look at it as long as the provision is being given to the children. And the 4 broad areas will be cognitive and learning. SENDCO will look into it in cognitive and learning. So that will involve support with education, because we are looking at education. Remember, parents or guardians, we are addressing on how you could support children under your care to get the best out of education. So we are looking at it based in education. So there's a cognitive and learning, that is support with education. SENDCO guides the subject teachers on need of the student or pupil. Teacher plans accordingly with the best support for the child in their subject. The student may have a running or teaching assistant as a whole class to work with the teacher or alongside the teacher. The teacher guides them on how to support the student within the classroom. Following the planning from the teacher, after the teacher has followed the guidelines from SENDCO in mind with the best interest of the students, in order to give best support to the student, so that the student can reach their fullest potential in each subject or in the curriculum, extracurriculum, vocational training, etc. Or depending on the needs, the student may be given one-to-one teaching assistant who follows them from one subject to the other, supporting them in the classroom, in the subject. As the teacher is teaching, the teacher will guide the TA, this is what her plan, this is what they need to do. And then because the class might have several students, this teaching assistant specifically work with this student depending on the need. So it could be a whole classroom teaching assistant or running support, or it could be one-to-one, where a teaching assistant is assigned to one student depending on the need, and they follow them from subject to subject, following the curriculum or extracurriculum or other vocational training, depending on the need of the child when it's come to educational needs. Okay, so number 1, we say the cognitive and learning, and I've explained on that. Number 2 is communication. The SENDCO, the coordinator, look at the speaking needs of the children or the student. Visual lesson planned. So when it comes to, if the child has got problem in maybe speaking, then the teacher will be advised to plan more on visual. The planning needs to be more visual. Maybe videos, etc., where the student can see, and they'll be able to get more from what is going on in that subject, on what the teacher has planned, or in what the teacher has planned. Listening and hearing. So the teacher will be advised maybe on specific sitting plan or area where the student will sit so that they can hear properly. If the student has got an hearing aid, maybe the SENDCO will assess on where the student will advise the teacher on where to put the students, so that if they have got hearing aid, it will not be too much, but they're able to hear fully what the teacher is teaching. So best sitting position in class or sitting area in class. Okay, when it comes to visual, if the student has got visual needs, then SENDCO will advise the subject teachers when it comes to printing the work or photocopying the work. Maybe this student or this child might need a color, a specific color that they can be able to read clearly. Like myself, I have been advised by SENDCO, and I'm sure other teachers, if I've got a child in my class with such need when it comes to visual impairment, I've been advised maybe to consider a different color paper. Times it could be blue, times it could be pink, depending on the need of the child. And also when it comes to PowerPoint, times we are advised on the color to use or the background color to use if there is such a child in the classroom, to cater for them, to make sure that they themselves are also getting the best from that lesson, from that subject, like any other children of their age. The other category is sensory and physical. So I'm looking at the 4 broad categories. The first one I said cognitive and learning. Then number 2, communication. Number 3 is sensory and physical. Again, come to visual impairment. Some of the students, depending on the need, will have one-to-one teaching assistant following them from lesson to lesson to support them. And any other requirement that will be required to enrich that lesson, that as the student move from one lesson to another, then will be provided. Maybe a laptop, their own laptop, etc. Physical, do the student need help in movement? If the students have to use a wheelchair, maybe there's someone assigned to make sure that they help the student in moving from one lesson to another and from one department to another. And when it's come to this, at times the teacher will be advised to dismiss them at least 5 minutes before the end of the lesson, so that they'll be able to move from one class to another and get there on time as the lesson is starting. So they leave at least 5 minutes earlier so that they can make it to their next subject or lesson on time. The other area could be hearing. When it comes to sensory and physical, it could be hearing. So does the student need hearing aid? Do they have to be sitting somewhere specific in class? Okay. The other category, number 4, is SEMH, which means social, emotional, and mental health. When it's come to this, after SENDCO, Special Educational Needs and Disability Coordinator, after they assess the student, if they feel that they have got a need on social, emotional, and mental health, after the assessment, they'll decide and they'll seek for specialized expert. They'll seek for specialized experts or personnel, and this is where they do referrals. So SENDCO will do further referral of these students who have been brought under their care and they're under their care. So they'll do referral and seek for specialized experts or personnel when it comes to social, emotional, and mental health. And they'll do this with the best interest of the student. They'll do this with the best interest of the child, so that the child will get to their fullest potential when it comes to education, to the fullest potential that they can get when it comes to education. And mainly these referrals will be speech language, occupational therapist, educational psychologist, school counselors, etc.